Hey guys, it's me, Dr. Katz. I want to talk a little bit about insulin resistance. Okay, so now this is something that I see in the office like every day. Okay, so what the heck is it and what do we have to do about it? So let's first talk about normal healthy body metabolism. Okay, so in normal healthy body metabolism, what happens is that you eat food, hopefully perfect for your body type, right? And then your pancreas, this abdominal organ right about here, sees that food and releases just the right amount of insulin to break down the food into just the right amount of glucose, which then gets directed into your muscles to give you fuel to burn, to do what you need to do to get energy and to go about your day, right? That's what happens in a great metabolism. In a not so great insulin resistant metabolism, there are several things that are wrong. So first of all, usually an insulin resistant person is either not eating and or eating totally carbohydrate heavy kinds of things that are terrible for their body type, right? So you eat that carbohydrate rich food, the good stuff, the salty stuff, the starchy stuff, the sweet stuff. Bread basket, give me some. Anyway, and you eat that and your pancreas sees that and goes, oh my God, and makes way too much insulin. Way over and above the amount that you would need to break down that food, right? So it does that, number one, because you're eating foods with too much sugar, okay? And number two, it's making too much insulin because it knows that your body cells are resistant, hence the name insulin resistant, to the effects of your own insulin that your own pancreas makes, right? So both the food and all the insulin that your pancreas just made just sits like right here in your abdomen, right? Giving you that nice spare tire that never seems to go away. And then so insulin, because it's a hormone too, okay? So insulin gets bored. It wants to do something. All hormones want to be active, right? So what does it do? It calls in its friend salt and fat and water. And before you know it, you're bloated like a pregnant person by the end of the day. And then you may flatten out again by morning, and then the whole vicious cycle repeats again. Bloated by the end of the day, flatten out in the morning. Bloated by the end of the day, flatten out by the end of the morning. If you actually weighed yourself, first thing when you got up versus last thing when you went to bed, you could have like a 3, 5, or more pound difference just in a day from all that fluid and fat and water retention. So, when an insulin-resistant person eats, that food and that fuel go nowhere. No fuel even gets made. It just sits in the abdomen, okay? And the muscles don't get anything out of it. And as a matter of fact, you might even feel sleepy after you eat rather than being energized like you should, okay? So that's a horrible way to live. So then what else does that insulin do as it's sitting there in your abdomen, right? Well, it's looking for something to do, so it seeks out other organs to be bad to. For example, in a woman, it seeks out her ovaries and gets them making all kinds of extra little cystic structures that make extra male hormone. And that extra male hormone gets broken down into all kinds of byproducts, which then deposit in your face and give you that cystic, terrible acne that won't go away, and or in your scalp that causes the follicles themselves to block with those extra testosterone byproducts, so that when you're shedding your normal 30 hairs a day, you don't regenerate because that testosterone has moved in and blocked, and then your scalp gets that real shiny look, but not a healthy shine. It's a I'm blocked with testosterone shine. And then if all this goes on long enough, then what happens is that your blood pressure starts to go up, your triglycerides start to go up, and then eventually, if this keeps going on and on and on with no kind of correction, eventually your pancreas is like, you know what, the heck with you, I am done, and you're diabetic. Ugh. All these things we can stave off and or correct if we get to them in time, okay? So how do we correct them? Well, first of all, you got to stop skipping meals, because in your altered metabolism, you skipping meals throws your already dysfunctional body into like a storage mode, so it holds on to everything. So you could be the person that doesn't eat all day and then eats a couple of pieces of bread at night and gains 7 pounds by tomorrow. That's how screwed up things are, okay? So don't skip meals. I'm not talking about initially going for the, 6 small meals in a day. No, I know that's not realistic for everybody. I would say first you aim for 3 meals in a day. Okay, the least of which that you could call a meal would be like a protein shake. Okay, we're not talking about like a piece of fruit or a piece of toast. No, we're talking about something as complete as a protein shake or an actual meal like an egg and toast or some meat and vegetables and fruit or something, okay? Because you got to give your body something to work with. Now let's also talk about, so we talked about not skipping, we talked about getting in our 3 meals, and we talked about what is the most minimal thing that could constitute a meal, right? Okay, so let's also talk about when we eat, how should we go about it, right? So there's several rules to think about there. Number 1 is don't eat carbs alone. And I don't mean alone in a room, I mean alone by themselves. You never want your whole meal to be just something starchy or sweet, okay? If you get a hankering for a bunch of fruit, okay, great, fruit is healthy for you, but in your insulin-resistant body, you got to put it with something. Put it with some cheese. Put it with some protein. When you put the carbohydrates and the protein together, what's called linking, see my fingers, how they're linked here? It's like putting blinders on your pancreas, right? So when the pancreas sees that food coming in, it can't see just sugar. So then maybe you can help correct that step of the problem where the pancreas is making too much insulin in the first place, okay? That's one way you can help. Second thing is, when you're linking, you want to think of like a 2-to-1 ratio of carbohydrates to proteins, or 15 grams of carbs to 7 grams of protein. Okay, that's what I was talking about linking. It's that ratio that will keep your pancreas kind of fooled and maybe even let it do its job some and not overmake all that insulin in the first place. Now, there are things you can also do to help your body actually use the insulin that it does make, right? So we're talking about the point before your pancreas is all worn out and quit on you, okay? One of those is movement, okay? Movement. Exercise. I'm not talking about 3 hours a day. I'm talking about like 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. Do you realize that by doing that, and we're talking moving enough so that you're actually sweating, your heart is actually pumping, okay, and you know that something is happening, you can actually take what is stuck here in your abdomen, okay, like the insulin and everything else, and forcibly, by your movement, change your body chemistry reaction and shove that food and insulin and everything into the muscle where it can actually be used for you. So that's pretty amazing, because there's not too many times that we can actually change our inner body chemistry just with exercise. Exercise becomes much more than a cliche in this particular instance, okay? So that's why I wanted to mention it to you. Now, there's a book that I am very fond of. It's literally called The Insulin Resistance Diet. It's made by a nurse, I think, and a nurse practitioner. It's got kind of a blue cover, a white background, and some pink letters. It is ugly, I'm not going to lie. But why I like this particular version of the insulin resistance diet with that particular cover is because this book is very practical. It completely breaks down everything I was just talking about, like the linking and balancing. It also has grocery store lists. Like here, when you go to the store, buy this, don't buy this. Buy this, don't buy this. You know, use this for a snack. It also has a couple weeks worth of menus. It also has what I call the real world section. I think they call it that too, actually, where it lists a bunch of different restaurants and says, you know, things like, okay, if you're going to eat here, if you want to follow your insulin resistance diet, get this entree instead of this entree. Because I don't know about you, but we don't have hours a day to sit down and calculate and figure out. If you can make things straightforward and easier for people to follow, I am in. And the last bonus of that is that the book is not this thick with the main point in the last 5 pages. It's only this thick. Yes, you might actually have a chance of getting through it. So that's my little talk on insulin resistance. Feel free to come on in and hear it in person if you think that it's possible that you have any of those symptoms, like the acne, the thinning hair, the abdominal obesity here, irregular periods, weight gain. Those are all possible signs of insulin resistance, not to mention carbohydrate cravings. Yum, yum. I could just eat a bread basket all day long. I'm just saying. I could. I don't, but I could. So if you have any of those concerns, come on in and see me and let's talk about it some more, okay? All right, everybody. You have a great day. Bye-bye.